Hi, Zoe, the Tantalising Stamper. I've got a project to share with you using the Sunset Coast dies from the new Stampin' Up catalogue. It's not the classic sunset that you may have seen around the bazaars, and I'm actually using pink, so why don't you come along and see if you like it. Cheers!
I've got all the ingredients, so to speak, together first for you to see, and I'll talk you through what you need. So from the dies is an amazing set. You can see them here. I've used this one, which I was struggling what to do with it, and I saw one of the lovely German demonstrators how she used it and overlapped them. So I've cased her idea with that, and I've also used the sailing boat, this fishing net, and the seashells, and I've cut some birds, but whether I'll use them I don't know. So I had two squares about 8.5 centimetres by 8.5, which is probably 3.5 inches square, and I cut one. I used the two-tone paper so you can see the difference. That's the same side, and then that's the light side. You can just see the difference. That might be easier to see. So I've cut two of those ready. I've also cut various small shapes, shells, birds in the different colours, and these three here I used a blending brush and added a little bit more of the Barely Blush ink, which is a new ink colour, just to make them a little bit darker. So I've got a choice there, and I've got the birds like I said, but I may or may not use those. And I've also cut a piece of the two-tone paper and used the birchwood embossing folder. I used it in landscape rather than portrait, to give the effect of waves and things in the background. So you can see I've already embossed it. And with this 3D embossing folder, you need to remember to change your plate so that you don't crack the front of your folder, and also always make sure you put the crease of the folder through your machine first. I've also got a piece, as you saw earlier, of the two-tone crumb cake, which I've cut to size, and I've smudged it here, but that's not a problem, that's why I've used it. I've also got a card base, which has got a little bit messy in prepping things, but we can take off those or put more on, take off those sticky bits, and these are going to be covered, so it seems a shame to waste. And here it splattered when I was doing something else, which was preparing this net shape. So I've cut it out of watercolour paper, and what I did, I will just show you on an old plastic bag, which I'm sure you've got somewhere in your craft room. I used the ink pad, Early Espresso, opened it up, tapped it a little bit too heavily, if I'm honest. You won't need as much onto there, and then I used one of these water spritzers to add water and spread the colour around a bit, and as you can see it's gathered, so I'm going to run it like that. And then when you spritz it, I'll give you a small tip as well. Be careful that you move everything else out of the way, i.e. your card, but also your clothes. I don't know if you can see, but I now have a spotty white top. But it should wash out because they're water-based inks. So I've got my piece. I haven't pushed all these bits out because it doesn't matter, but what I'm going to do is around the thinner bits is just dab it in to get some colour on it. Let's try and move it around a little bit. I don't want to do more and get these spotty bits out on the outside. And you can see slowly it's picking up colour. Some bits you can go a bit darker, so we'll perhaps go the whole hog there, and then pick up the bits around the edge. And then you'll want to let that dry. You can see it's very wet. Or you can use your heat tool to dry it off. I'm actually going to put it somewhere because I've prepped one earlier. And we'll also move that out of the way. And I've got that piece, so I'll put that safe. And right, the next step, with this piece that I've embossed, I have a little bit of sanding foam that I picked up a long time ago, but just a little bit of sanding paper. And what you can do, the beauty with the two-tone is that in the centre of the two colours, it's white. So you can create a little bit more detail by gently taking off on the raised bits the colour with your sanding paper. So and with this particular, this is Barely Blush, which is a very, very pale pink. But when I started playing about and designed this card, I showed my husband and he thought it was very pink, very pink. So I sanded it to soften it down a little bit. And that's why I've added more colour to some of these shells. And you'll see as I go along. Don't worry, we're going to stick things on so we can push that out. So, and just get rid of the dust. Just wipe it on your trouser leg. Not your best trousers though. So you can see now there's pink and white, hopefully, in there. And this is going to sit on top of this piece, which I've cut a little bit too long, so I'm going to cut that down. And then those will sit. I'm going to pop those on my card. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually tear. I'm going to tear along the bottom. Just tear a very thin bit. And again, this creates more texture, but it also, if you tear it towards you, you should reveal the white core of the paper. And that gives you a little bit more detail. And again, softens the pink if you don't want it to be too pink. Or even very pink. And then this piece I will tear as well along the bottom to reveal the central core of the paper. Let's see how we're doing. We might take a bit more off the pink, I think. Just make that a little bit higher. So what I'm trying to do probably is give a sort of beach effect, but not necessarily with your standard blue skies and yellow sand. Now, the trouble is, if you don't grasp it, you can find it difficult to get it going. But there we go. So that's okay. Just grab the trimmer and I will take off a little bit here, I think, just to even it up. There we go. And I'm going to stick that straight on. A little bit of wet glue. It's green glue, as lots of people call it, or Tombow. This is really great because it gives you some wiggle room when you stick something on. Because it's a wet glue, if you hit it off like that, you've got a bit of time, not a lot, but a little bit of time to just add that on and slide it around to where you want it. We'll just check that fits our card. And it does, but we're going to turn it over and use that side. Like so. And again, I'm going to just trim my base card now. Take off that excess. Not all of it, because I want somebody to be able to open it easily. So if you're a bit messy like me, and sometimes you get inky fingers and you do things like this is a great way to get over that issue and not think, well, I'm going to throw that away, because all card, no matter how much you paid for it, is important, and we don't want to waste our money on throwing it in the bin. So that is okay like that. We'll move the embossing folder, we'll move our card, and we'll keep our base here. The next thing is to stick these two together, which I could have used double-sided adhesive to stick them together, but actually I found that if I start off here and just go very gently. And I've put my glue, I've decanted it into this fine tip applicator bottle. And if you do that, you just take off the lid and then pour the Tombow into the hole in the middle and try not to touch the sides so that it just keeps going in. If you do touch the sides, just lift it gently, tap it gently, otherwise you get splatter as well. Believe me, I've learnt by experience. And it's just easy then to apply to smaller. If we put that bit down first that we haven't got glue on, there we go, and we can then hold that there for a few seconds until it's stuck. And then we can do the same, but this time I think we'll possibly go on this thin bit. Just put little dots and then spread them along. And I suppose really if I had my silicone mat closer, I could do that, and then I'm not putting glue all over my desk. And it will peel off later when it's dry. So again, just hold it so you know you've got them. So the two are stuck together. And then I think we will pop that like so. This I'm going to cut down with it, just with a pair of scissors. I don't want the whole thing. Just cut randomly. And there are little white bits, but fishing nets aren't even, are they? So we can then tuck that under there like so. So what we'll do is add some glue to these bits that haven't come out, and I hope that they don't come out. Then I want that under there. And this again will just soften the pink a little bit. And I can then also add some glue on there, put that down. And a little bit of glue on these side pieces. And underneath here, if I go carefully underneath, pop that down. And again, I think I'll just put a little bit on there to stick that on, and a little bit on the underside. If we hold it all together and put that to one side for now. Now, the other thing I did was I used this die, and this was a great way to use it offcuts of your white card. So I had a circle here. I don't need all of this bit because I'm not using it in the way that that leaves this circle around it. I don't want it. What I'm interested in is the yacht itself. So I cut two and I've stuck one on top of the other, and then this final one I'm going to stick on top as well, and I'm just going to carry on the circle with a pair of snips to do that. We put some, and this I wanted it to be a bit sturdier, but I also wanted it to stand out a little bit more, so it just makes it thicker and stand up a little bit. Put some glue on. And if we go along here as well, possibly at this end. And we pop that on. And again, the Tombow gives you that flexibility just to move them around. Get off any excess glue that's oozed out with your fingers. They'll wash after all. And that can then go on here like this. So this can go on to here to create more of our scene. Just get that fingerprint off. We put the die back so we don't lose it, and then we can think about some of these other shapes and things like that we're going to put on. So first of all, I'm going to actually stick this on. So by making it thicker, You can put plenty of glue on the back here because it won't ooze hopefully through those holes. Let me just get that little spot up there. Just make sure you spread your little blobs so they don't ooze. And we'll put that along there. And hold it all down. We'll move the base card for the time being. And we can add some of our shapes. So if we think about now, the nice thing with this is that we can then use some dimensionals and we can cover this. You might think, well, why she left that on? Well, it just made it easier to stick it on and gave me some scope to pop something over it like this. And if we come with another one underneath, there we go. What else? I think we'll have a starfish. These dimensionals just fit perfectly in the middle. I'll perhaps put that one up there like so. And we can have perhaps a little perhaps the other pink bits and pieces, I think. I'll stick this on with a little bit of glue. And another shell, I think. Or maybe we'll have a starfish for a bit more detail. Let's stick that. Ooh, I stuck it down so well. If we pop that, there we go. He'll just stand on there. And let's have this other little star, shell, sorry, scallop shell. If we put a couple of dimensionals on. Just, ooh, I'll put that a little bit too low. No. Heavy fingers. If we're not careful, we'll mess it up. There we go. So we've got all of those, and we can then add some gems. So these are the new in colour gems. So we've got some Burley Blush here. So if we pop, let's have a big one up here. I have some little ones on the shells. One on there. One on there. So we've got 3. That's probably enough, I think, for the time being. And that can then go onto our card. So if we put some larger dimensionals on the back, and I normally set them in a little bit so that you know, they're not right out in the corner that then pushes the middle down too much. They're a bit more evenly spaced and gives it a bit more support. And we'll actually put one in, we will put one in the middle there because we've weakened the paper by tearing it, not massively, but it just helps it to give it a bit more strength. There we go. We can then flip that onto our faux pas on the card. There we go. And we've used the Sunset Coast, but in a slightly different way to what you might have seen it before. And then it leaves you plenty of scope to add a sentiment if you want to. This is actually from the stamp set, Happy Retirement. and you can I like to keep them blank sometimes so that I can add a sentiment when I need a card and I know what I want it to be for, and that would work there. So slightly different ideas. This was to again soften the pink a bit, but here the two-tone cardstock, and I put a little pearl under there. This time I've put a mixture of shells and starfish, so you can mix and match it to suit you. But I hope you like it. It's a little bit different, and it's always nice to have different ideas with a stamp set. So thank you for joining me. If anything appeals or you have any questions at all, even if you're not in the UK, then please do contact me via my Stampin' Up website, which is zoetant.stampinup.net, or you can visit my blog, which is stampingscene.blogspot.com. And I hope you'll take a look at my YouTube channel where you found this video. Thank you. Bye bye.